It's another thing to use it when the spotlight is on you and the world is watching. Rachel Lindsay is an author, attorney, media personality, and speaker who has built a powerful platform by asking tough questions, challenging cultural narratives, and encouraging people to think more deeply about the world around them. You may know her from her podcast, Higher Learning and Morally Corrupt, her outspoken media commentary, or her books. And tonight, she's opening up about thoughtful leadership, communication, her writing career, and how to use your voice with confidence. Oh my gosh, Rachel, I am so excited that you're here. There is so much that I've been wanting to talk to you about. I am a huge fan of yours. We have a mutual friend, Alexis. Shout out, Alexis. We love you. But I've been following your Higher Learning podcast ever since we met at Alexis' Bachelorette. And I just love how much you speak out on topics that other people shy away from. You stand up for your principles, what you think is important. And I just wanted to have you on to talk more about that and give us some of that inspo that we all need, especially right now when I think it's more important than ever that we speak up and we share what we think about things in life that are important to us.
Well, thank you for saying that. It's so funny. Like we met, we have mutual friends, and we were like having a good time. And at some point, I guess we had a serious conversation. And
I think in the car on the way back from the club or something. We're multifaceted, you know.
But I'm glad we did, and I'm glad that you enjoy the podcast because it's something I'm really proud of. We're coming up on 6 years in May, which is hard to believe, and I'm really proud of the community that we've built, that we continue to build. So thank you so much for saying that.
So you've written Miss Me With That, Hot Takes, Helpful Tidbits, A Few Hard Truths. You also had a fiction novel that came out. I had no idea. Real Love, which came out in March of 2023. And you're working on a third book. So, I mean, when I say we want to have someone here who knows about speaking, communicating, this is you. I mean, oh my God. So how do you balance, first of all these sides of yourself and all of the things that you want to share with the world?
I don't balance. Let me be very clear. And just honestly, with help. I think I'm such a control freak and I want to do everything myself. And one of the things that I continue to learn as I get older is trusting other people to help me, because you can't master everything by yourself. You're just not going to be great. And I want to give my best self and present myself that way in everything that I do. So I really ask for help. You have good days, you have bad days, but at the end of the day, you love so much what you're doing that it doesn't feel like work. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it's true. Having a corporate job and working as an attorney, I loved what I did, but it felt like work. It never felt fulfilling. And I always felt like there was something more that I was supposed to be doing. And I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do.
Right? Aren't we all on some level? I was reading the other day that the average female entrepreneur starts their business at 42. So it's like, you just never know what's going to happen in life. We're always ever evolving. I think that's a good thing.
I think we should always be evolving. If we look at ourselves and we're like, I'm not the same person I was when I was 20, when I was 30, when I was 40, then why does our work have to be the same? Like, why don't we apply that same mindset to work?
What does that concept of thoughtful influence look like for you in practice? Like when you go to a podcast or when you go on CNN and all right, I'm going to be asked these questions that are pretty weighty.
It's so funny you say the CNN thing because I left a bachelorette party and went straight to New York to CNN. And
oh my gosh, again, multifaceted. She does it all, honey.
I don't know. I was possessed. For me, I just feel like when you have a platform, there's a responsibility there. And I don't know if I always I know I didn't grasp that initially when I started podcasting. And so I think at times in the beginning, I could have been more researched in what I was saying. I could have been more thoughtful. I could have been more sensitive or maybe even vulnerable if it related to something personal. And coming up on 6 years, it's really interesting to see where we started with Higher Learning and then where we are now with so much misinformation out there and disinformation and AI being something that we have to combat these days. I've been fooled before of a story.
Me too. Yeah.
And it's and we see some of the most respected journalists have been fooled before. So it's really a whole practice in itself of trying to combat that. And everybody seems to have a microphone or a platform, whether it be social media or a podcast or YouTube, whatever it may be. And so I think being a thoughtful leader is realizing the responsibility that you have, that people are consuming it. You might be someone's only source of information. I think it's also important. I can be sometimes I can be judgmental, and I've learned that about
Fair.
myself on the microphone. And so
Guilty
I try
as
to
well.
pull back. Yes. And it's like, you big hypocrite, Rachel, you have been in the public eye and people have assumed things about you that are not true. So
Right.
how can you do that on the microphone as well? So I've tried to also be more responsible and pull back and not, like put a personal bias on certain things, and really try. I'm going to be opinionated, but not be so hardline. And I'm a work in progress on that, because if I believe it, I say it.
Right.
And that's not always fair. So I think that all of that comes with being, a thoughtful leader.
You said that you've had times where you've wanted to be more well-researched or,
Mhm.
more well-informed. Well, today, I was just listening before we got on here to Higher Learning. Like you know your stuff. I mean, I know you have your computer, but you're giving the facts, you're fact checking. You have your attorney hat on, it seems like. And do you feel like having a background as an attorney and also growing up with your father being a prominent federal judge, like, do you feel like that has also informed your style of thinking and
Oh,
communicating?
for sure. Going back to growing up with my dad was he was hard, but hard in like a good way.
Yeah.
My dad challenged me. He challenged my thinking. If I wrote something, if I was writing a paper and he was reading it, it's like, well, why did you say that? Can you expand on that thought? Like, I was always being challenged, but challenged to be an independent thinker, which I'm grateful for. I didn't always appreciate that when I was younger, but I get it now. And then that carried me through high school, college, law school. And, I'm very fortunate that I had like an amazing resource in my dad, even as a practicing attorney. I even call him about legal stuff on the podcast. But law school in itself teaches you, like, that's really what it does. It teaches you how to think. It doesn't necessarily tell you how to be a lawyer in practice. And so you learn immediately when you get into law school, you're always spotting what the issue is. And then you find the rule, the application, and the conclusion. And so I'm always thinking in that way. But also being a lawyer is being well researched. I was a litigator, so you want to know every single angle as you go into, a deposition, a hearing, trial, whatever it may be. So I carry that into the podcast as well, whether I'm debating back and forth with Van, whether there's something that I'm passionate about talking about, or I'm doing an interview. So yeah, those skills definitely help me in practice in what I do now. I think being a lawyer, just the skills that you learn help you in every way.
Oh my gosh, for sure. So I'm married to a litigator, and I tell you, when I
Ooh.
have a topic, I know when I have a topic that is like more intense, something that I need to be more careful about. Like I've started doing more animal advocacy stories, and I'll be looking into like data and numbers, and I'll run things by him, and he'll poke some holes in my arguments, and I'll be like a little bit, annoyed at first, but at the end of the day, I'm so grateful because I would rather have that happen at home than go and present that in a different setting where the stakes are really high and I'm wanting things to go well, and you kind of crash out. So I totally can relate to what you said, except it was your father, but it's almost like having those people around you sharpens you, and
Yes.
you having those skills sharpened you in many
Thank
ways
you.
too. It sounds
Thank
like,
you.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're sharp as a tack. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, she got it. I love it. It's so fun to watch. So speaking of like using your voice in a bold way, which I
Mhm.
think it's safe to say that you have done that. Like as long as you've been in the media, you have been very bold and honest and outspoken. Other people who may be watching this, who are wanting to get a little bit more of that in their lives,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to some of these important political topics. Like right now, we are going into the primaries. It's like, it's voting season. We're wanting to have conversations. We're wanting to, show up for our communities. What is some of your advice for other people who want to improve and sharpen their own communication skills?
I it's gonna sound so basic, but it really is practice. But if you
Yeah.
want to do it in a way that doesn't feel as consequential or, as loud, do it with your friend group.
Mm.
Sometimes the best opinions that I have coming into the podcast, and I would say that Van, my co-host, is the same way because he's always talking to everyone, are
Yeah.
conversations that I'm having in a group chat where I'm being challenged or my opinion is being challenged amongst my friends, or it's on a phone call. And then that is sharpening your skills too, because you're having to go back and forth and there's no audience. So I think if you maybe are afraid to do it on social media, which I even get at times, and I want to be honest with that, like I don't go in fearless into every time I go into an episode or I'm on social media or in an interview like this, I get nervous or I have imposter syndrome at sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, one day they're going to realize I'm not really that smart. No. So we all think that. And I think that's important to say, but start with your friends, start with your friend group, you know, maybe go into a chat room anonymously on, I don't know, social medias. And there's that conversation in these apps where you can go back and forth with people. And I think maybe do it that way. You have to have the practice. I was in speech competitions. I did debate. I was a litigator. So I've had the practice, but even starting a podcast was a different skill set. And, you know, where I am now is not how I started off. So repetition is a real thing too, but you can do it in a smaller way.
Ooh, those are such good tips. I love that. Yes. Just practice. We learn by doing sometimes, right? A little question about like podcasting. In your fantasy world, Rachel, who are like two political figures that you would love to interview today if you could, and what would you ask them?
Political figures. So that could be like a talking head, or does it have to be an actual politician?
Whoever you want.
Okay.
We can skip if you want to skip also.
No.
Oh, see,
I just want it to be, because I really am thinking, what politician would I want to have? Because we're starting to have more politicians on our podcast. And I wish we had more conservatives on our podcast.
Interesting. Why?
I think that if you're only preaching to a choir, it's ineffective. And I think that I think that makes me, because I'm going to have to research them, it makes me more sharp, you know, to keep using that word, in my analysis and my understanding of the political landscape. So I would want someone conservative, because at first I was going to say Michelle Obama, and I do want her, but I would want someone on the conservative side, I would want Joe Rogan. I'll definitely say, that's why I asked you if it could be like a talk.
Interesting. Yeah.
Who I do not agree with, but an interesting conversation. You can't deny the influence that he has. And I would love to sit down with that. And then I guess the other person maybe would be, I don't know. I was trying to think of somebody in the administration. I don't know. I'll just say John Fetterman right now. I don't know why that was the first one that popped in my head, but I'm not understanding some things, and I would love to sit down and talk.
Oh my gosh, Rachel, I'm dead. I mean, I'd love to sit down and talk. Is there anything in particular that you would ask off the top of your head, either Joe Rogan or John Fetterman? Or would you need to I want
to know who John Fetterman is, as a politician, because it's almost becoming a thing, you know, if you're talking about liberal politics, it's almost becoming a thing of, well, I don't want to get Fetterman, because people think that they've been tricked. So if you've changed, if you're moving independent, like you're becoming like a Joe Manchin, instead of, you know, who are you? That's where I would start. Why have things seemed to change? Why are you constantly, you know, you don't always have to vote with your party. That's kind of problem, like where we are right now. Why things can't get done, but I want to understand, because it just seems to be so different, and almost very disgusted by the party. And then I would say with Joe Rogan, I'd have to really do some heavy research, because I want to get into some of, I don't want to say conspiracy theories, but just some of that like line of thinking that he has. And yeah.
Okay, interesting. Your answer really surprised me. Again, I shouldn't be surprised. That's interesting.
I want to be challenged. Yeah.
So you do have your Mercury in Aries, by the way, which is the warrior sign of communication. So, you know, I actually should have known. Knowing your birth chart, Rachel, I should have known. So I love that. Yeah, you're going to go right at it, and you're going to just confront the situation and have a convo. Love it. Right now, you're working on your third book. This is going to be about your divorce, your reinvention, where you are now in life. As you work on that, like, what is that looking like for you? Are you doing the process? Give us a little bit of, you know.
This one was tough, because my first one was I was excited to tell my story and have control over it after being on The Bachelor and Bachelorette, where people, I gave that control away. So that was exciting for me. The fiction story was exciting too, because it kind of explored in a fictional way, what if I had said no, and how my life could play out in a sliding doors kind of way of, I had this opportunity. I said no. What did that look like? That was fun too, and a little therapeutic. But this is more vulnerable. It's personal. Even when I wrote my first book, I talked about me. I didn't really I was really respectful of my family and past relationships. I tried to be, at least. Maybe my exes wouldn't agree with that. But this is me. And I didn't tell tea. Like, I didn't really give a lot of tea about the show and behind the scenes. That's not my style. This is me opening up about my marriage in a way that I never have before, stories I've never told. And yes, it's tea, but it's necessary for you to understand the growth or the ways that I'm still growing, or in more of like a learn from me. I want to write that book that I couldn't find myself. And I think that's why it best comes in a book of essays of, what do you do when your world, the entire future that you planned for yourself is completely gone? How do you start over again? How do you pick up the pieces? And when it's in such a public way, and when it's messy. Never in a million years did I think my divorce would be front page news and messy, and front page entertainment news.
Oh my God. I don't know how you did it. I think I would have been like mental breakdown. Like,
I don't either, but I did. And I always get emotional when I think about where I am now versus where I was 2 years ago. And that's why it's harder to write. And that's what I want to talk about. I don't know how I did either. So let me tell you what's been going on these last 2 years. Let me tell you how I got here. Let me tell you how I picked up the pieces and I started dating again. I was intimate again. I got over the shame. I built a community, how my community lifted me up in ways that I've grown and I've pivoted, how I moved past anger. And that is a real thing. And I think it doesn't have to necessarily be applied for divorce. I think it can be when you divorce any situation, friendship, work, family, a partnership, in love. It doesn't have to be, a marriage or something like that. So I think that's why it's harder to write, because I'm being more vulnerable and I want to make sure that I'm really tapping into the lessons that I've learned.
Ooh, I love that. That's so powerful, because I totally agree with you. And there are so many times in life, like if we're growing and we're changing, then there are going to be things along the way that we end up, not bringing with us on our journey. Like if you're really evolving, like there are going to be times where you have to walk away from something, or you just move on. And that's the healthy thing to do. And even if it's the healthy thing, it's still really hard. And it can maybe be an identity crisis, and you have to figure that out. Like, who am I? How does my life look? What makes me happy? So I love that you're writing a resource for that and opening up a door for people to have more conversations about that. That's one of the things I think we kind of avoid. And it's great to shine a light on it. And then it doesn't feel so big, doesn't feel so scary or heavy.
Yeah, let's take the shame away from divorce. I think that's why we stay in relationships longer than we should, because we're so worried about what other people think rather than how we're feeling.
Rachel, will you tell everybody where they can find you, learn more from you, be inspired, keep up with everything you have going on? Just give us all of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This was so fun. Such a thoughtful interview. It's so fun. I'm laughing because I'm like, get you a girl that can do both. We know how to have fun. And then we also know how to, have a thoughtful conversation at the same time. But you guys,
we have to do both.
We have to do both. If you want more of that from me, you can follow me on @the Lindsay on all social media platforms. Also, Higher Learning, new episodes drop every Tuesday and Friday. And you can get that wherever you get podcasts. You can watch it on video on Spotify, also on YouTube. And then also, if you are a fan of the Bravo world, again, get you a girl who can do both. I have a podcast that is totally dedicated to Bravo shows called Morally Corrupt, and new episodes drop every Tuesday and Friday as well.
It's so much fun. Well, Rachel, we'll have to have you back to give us some tips on how you keep up with everything going on, because 4 podcasts a week. Are we serious? Like, look
It's
at
my
this
full-time
woman.
job. It's my
You have a
full-time.
battery? Give us some of that energy, okay, girl? Well, thank you so much, Rachel. We appreciate it.
Take care.
Hey, if you love pop culture, astrology, and a little tarot tea, check out my weekly podcast, In the Cards and Stars, where I break down celebrity headlines and translate astrology into real-life strategies you can use. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on my Brit Madrid YouTube channel. You know that feeling when you have absolutely nothing to wear and you suddenly just don't feel motivated to go to that party anymore? Well, it's not just you. There is a concept in psychology called enclothed cognition. I'm not kidding. This is basically the idea that what you wear directly impacts your mood, confidence, and even your productivity levels. I know, crazy. This is something that we can actually work on. We're going to use this to our advantage with our spring cleaning, spring wardrobe 2026 refresh. All right, we're going to do this together. We're going to make it simple, and we're going to turn this into a creative exercise rather than the horrific chore that it usually is. I don't know about you guys, but getting my closet organized, getting rid of the things that no longer fit me or that I just haven't worn in years is one of the most difficult tasks. I just struggle to motivate myself to do it. But we're going to use some psychology, we're going to use inspiration, and the most simple system ever to actually get it done. So let's do it together, you guys. Spring refresh, here we come. We're going to do this in 2 parts. First, we're going to get inspired, then we're going to get organized. And we're going to get inspired by remembering the benefits of doing this. We get reduced stress and anxiety. Yes, it eliminates that frantic, stressful search for clothing that spikes our cortisol levels, demotivates us, and just makes us feel like our environment is chaotic. This improves our mood, our self-worth when we accomplish a task. So once we actually finish it and get our closet all organized, we release dopamine, which just gives us that feel-good sense of accomplishment that boosts our sense of self-worth. Also improved mental clarity overall. When we eliminate the friction that it takes to get out the door, we actually feel like we can think more clearly, we can make decisions more quickly, and the whole concept of knowing what's in your closet and knowing what you're going to wear, it's not just for like the tech bros that wear the black t-shirt every day. Like, we can also curate our wardrobes and have a good sense of what we want to put on in the day that eliminates the extra decision making and the decision fatigue, but we can do it in a way that feels stylish and suits our lifestyles. We're going to think about it as refreshing our wardrobe so that we can have a greater sense of self-expression. And we're going to do that by looking at the spring 2026 runway looks, Pinterest, your favorite influencers or artists, even movies or nostalgic eras. Building a mood board, you can either do this on your phone, nice and simple, or you can get out the poster board, get out some scissors and do it old school style. It helps us to visualize what we would like, and it helps us to create the energy that we want to have in our wardrobe. Let's focus on a couple of the fashion trends that are popular right now in case we do want to refresh our wardrobe with what's current. Again, this is all about you curating your personal style. So as I point out some of these trends, just keep in mind that you really only need to add things to your wardrobe if it's something that you truly love and if it actually inspires you. If not, you just keep doing what you love. Personal style is actually, oddly enough, one of the biggest trends this season. Making things your own, bag charms, tying a scarf onto your purse, mixing and matching bold colors. A couple of trends that you may want to take a look at, see if they inspire you. Whimsical maximalism, loving this one. So this is all about texture, movement, personality. Think feathers, fringe, bold jewelry. It's playful, it's expressive, and it's anything but boring. So maybe adding a few fun pieces to your wardrobe could spice things up. The next trend that I'm loving is romantic gothic. Now, this is soft, but it's edgy, lace, corsets, layered textures. This is feminine, mysterious. There's a bit of an edge though, and I really like to think of Margot Robbie's style on the Wuthering Heights press tour. That really just is the perfect embodiment of this romantic gothic trend that we're seeing for spring. Modern suiting with a twist. Structured pieces styled in unexpected ways. Think suits with flats, skirts in the mix, polished pieces with unexpected personality. truly mixing and matching to make it your own. So once you have your vision for how you want to look and most importantly, how you want to feel, it's time to get down to business, because if we can't see what we have in our closet, we don't even know which items we have that we can use to put together the looks. I don't know about you, but it can be kind of a mess in there. So we're going to tackle it. And here is the easiest way to do it without getting overwhelmed. First, we're going to take everything out. I know it sounds difficult, but this is like a measure twice, cut once sort of scenario. So we're going to take everything out of the closet, and then we're going to sort it into 4 piles: keep, donate, repair, or toss. After you've done that, we're going to clean and reset the space. So vacuum, wipe down the shelves, dust, lint roll if you have dogs like I do. Get everything looking good and empty so that you can now add everything back that you want to keep, that you love, in an organized fashion. We want to group by style and then by color. Super simple, so you can see what's in there. And then this is a game changer. If you feel like your closet is cramped, don't feel like you need to have everything in there from all seasons. One great way to make space, and really like that visual space that cuts down on the mental clutter that makes it hard to visualize outfits and hard to see what we even have. One thing you can do is take the items that are not in season out of your closet. There are these amazing vacuum sealed storage bags. You put your stuff in there that's off season and you use a vacuum cleaner and you basically suck all the air out of the bag and you can slide it right under your bed. And now you are only looking at the season that you're going to be dressing for, and you can see all of your clothes. You don't have your big coats in the back and all of that. It is a game changer. And then when we come around to fall, you can repeat this whole process, and then you have your fall closet. It really, really helps. Planning ahead, thinking like a stylist, having a clean workspace. All of these things come together to really just make us feel like we are putting our best foot forward when it comes to our wardrobe. So I want to leave you guys with a quote from Michelle Obama, who wrote a book called Look, about her fashion. She said that style is a language of its own, one that each of us can use to express our individuality and ignite confidence. And that's our show for tonight. If you'd like to keep the conversation going, be sure to follow the show at BZenTV on Instagram and connect with me personally at Brit Madrid. And before we go, a quick reminder that kindness really matters, especially when we're talking about animals that can't advocate for themselves. If you've ever considered fostering or adopting, please take a look at the adorable animals at Dallas Animal Services. Updates are shared daily by some amazing advocates, including at Dallas Shelter Dogs and at Dallas Doggy Daycations on Instagram. They make it easy to see which dogs need help and are ready for their forever homes. Or even better, head down to the shelter yourself and give these dogs some much needed love. Even sharing them on social media helps them be seen and saved. And if you're looking for a rescue to support, I encourage you to check out Cody's Friends Rescue or Rough Road Revival. These organizations work tirelessly to pull dogs from the shelters and place them in foster as they wait for their forever homes. You can help by fostering, adopting, or donating to support these worthy causes. Your voice matters, your influence matters, and your compassion matters more than you know. Be Zen, and I'll see you next time.